Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Talking Ruggers. I can't believe we're really rattling through these right now. Thank you so much for joining us again. And oh boy, do we have an interesting episode in store for you today. As always, we're talking to one of the most consistent content creators in the rugby space that there is. He's from the north of England, so it makes a difference to talking to all these southern softies. So it's an interesting take that he has on his perspective growing up through the game and how that ultimately led to him working in the social media space, because it wasn't his desire, it wasn't his dream to be here. It just was a means to end to promote his clothing business. He sells mystery clothing boxes online specifically for rugby. So make sure you check those out after the episode. But from that, through promoting his business, he developed this social media skill set, which he delves into in great detail, giving away some good nuggets of information for you guys if you're interested in starting in social media along the way throughout this episode. But that ultimately led to him then putting himself in front of the camera and giving some really interesting takes, some hot takes, some controversial takes, some rage bait takes. It's safe to say his comment sections are typically flooded with people who are awfully frustrated. But what we take away from this episode is a great amount of laughter, because this bloke has a lot of northern charm. He is a great bloke. He's doing great things for the game of rugby in different ways to those who we've spoken to previously on Talking Ruggers. But without any further ado, this week we are talking ruggers with the man behind P Sports, Alex Pearce. All right, Alex, in your own words, for those who may not already know who you are, who is P Sports?
So P Sports is the brand name I initially picked for my rugby shirt mystery boxes. So I fell into content accidentally. I'm Alex Pearce. So I'll give you a bit of a backstory how we got there, because each step, because I'd literally have fallen here accidentally. So I came out of uni, went traveling for a bit, and I'm not really employable. I guess like a lot of content creators, business owners, like working for their own boss does not suit. Being my own boss suits me. Someone else telling me what to do does not suit me at all. So started off selling vintage clothing, all vintage, just like I was like a proper wheeler dealer, like buying from charity shops, car boot sales, and then reselling it on eBay. But back then, before it all boomed in COVID, did reselling, but I got into it about 2018. So you'd get like a car boot sale, like it wouldn't be rare to buy something for £1 and sell it for 50 quid. Like it was mad back then. So started off as a wheeler dealer and gradually sort of evolved into having like a real vintage clothing company, and had suppliers around the UK, big suppliers. I was buying a lot of weight of clothing around the world as well, and evolved into other platforms. Depop, had my own website, Shopify. I was on ASOS, Etsy. And then we started doing pop-up events. Started off small, then we got a couple of contracts with Leeds Uni, York, not your uni of Leeds Beckett and York St John's Uni. Had contract there for a year, doing all, I think we did 40 in 1 year. Did some of the big festivals around the UK, so Boardmasters in Cornwall. We had a 6 metre by 6 metre marquee. It was massive. Did Leeds Fest as well, which is a local festival to me. I'm at my mum's house now, and I grew up a mile away from Leeds Fest. So it was a weird full circle moment, because I've been going there for years, and then I had this stall and it was sick. But anyway, that was to cut a long story short, it was high turnover but low profit margin and a lot of effort. So my mate does Mystery Football Kit Co. And he suggested, why don't you start doing the mystery rugby shirts? Because he knew that I played rugby back in the day, and I always loved football shirts, rugby shirts. Growing up, until probably the age of 14, I would have worn rugby league, rugby union, or football shirts. So I loved reselling them, the nostalgia of it, and the rugby shirts seemed to always go well. I don't know if it's because I knew what I was looking for. So anyway, pivoted into the rugby mystery boxes. I know we went round the houses here, but I had to kind of explain how we got there, which was less turnover but higher profit margin. And he was like, you've got to get on TikTok. It's booming right now. This would have been 2021, probably just after that COVID boom of TikTok, but it was still early days. Went on there, my first ever video, I just pulled 3 rugby shirts or football. I think it was footy shirts, can't remember, out of a bag, and it got 300,000 views. That's all I did. I didn't say anything. I had a sack full of them. Like, those, you'll have seen me post it 1,000 times since. Don't get quite the same numbers that I used to, but still sometimes they blow up. But so I pulled the shirts out of the sack, 300,000 views. I did nothing, showed no personality. There was no text, no music, nothing. And it drove a load of website visitors, I think. And then like my third or fourth one, it drove like 2,000 website visitors. And I was like, I've got to double down on these rugby shirt mystery boxes now because this TikTok's amazing. So he had a contact, because he did mystery football kit code, Tom Garrett, the football content creator. I basically paid him, I can't remember how much, to grow my TikTok for me originally, because I wouldn't want to put my face on camera. Like, weirdly enough, like I would always be, if I was around my group of mates or new people, I'd be like I am now. But I think I had like a public speaking fear that I never got over from school or whatever. So I paid someone else to do my TikTok originally, which is mental. And then, so he got me my first 6,000 followers, built a load from just pulling shirts out. And then I was like, I paid a couple of other influencers, like, surely I could do this. Like, I'm a good talker. Like, why can't I just make the videos? Like, how can I be a good talker in every other sense? But then as soon as the camera comes on, I'm not. It's like, obviously, just it translates. Like, I started trying to look at it like I'm not performing. I'm just being me on camera, if you know what I mean. So rather than like putting on an act, like, obviously in short form, it's an exaggerated version of yourself and you're on the wind up sometimes, but I'm never trying to portray anybody but myself. I don't script anything. I just speak off the top of my head what comes out. And I did a live stream. Someone suggested I do a live stream, which to sell my rugby shirts. So rather than mystery boxes, it was they pick the shirts on the live, they order on TikTok shop. I post it out to them. And like I did really well in that format. It's just me talking. And like I did really well. And a couple of my mates had watched maybe, or family members, and they're like, you're good at that, Like I thought it would be awkward watching you, but it wasn't. So that kind of gives you a little bit of like reassurance or positive reinforcement. So I started doing a couple of videos here and there, and I was doing loads of football because I'm a football fan first, really. I grew up in a football household, big Arsenal fan. My dad's an Arsenal fan. We all love rugby now, but I played rugby all the way through. I played rugby, watched football. So I was doing more videos about football because I knew more about that. And then I did one about rugby. I was just laid in my bed, like I do my green screen one, just like no script. I just filmed it, laid there in bed, nothing, and it got like 250k views. And because I already had 10,000 followers because someone had built it up for me, I got paid like by the creator scheme like 60, 70 quid or whatever it was. And then I did, because it was 3 players we've all played with. You've probably seen it because I've reused that video 100 times because it gets views, right? And then I did part 2, part 3, all the way up to part 9 for the next 9 days. Got paid quite well for it. And I was like, well, forget the football content. Let's just do the rugby. Like, probably because I played it and I understand rugby players and the fans' mentality, maybe it resonated much better, even though I don't know the granular detail like yourself. I was listening to your podcast with Squid yesterday. Like, you two are amazing. Like, I know other people who break it down, like, amazing at what you do. But I literally could not do that. I physically couldn't because I don't have the knowledge that you guys do. But where I come from, it is probably more like I just make conversation topics you might have with your mates in the pub that don't necessarily know everything. But I love watching you guys to learn, but I don't think I could ever get to that point because I probably don't have quite enough interest and passion. Because I feel like if you're breaking it down, you've got to have the passion that you guys do. Otherwise, it's going to come across that you don't. But yeah, that's how I got here. Sorry, we went around the houses, but you can see how I fell into it accidentally.
Yeah, well, you say accidentally. It seems like it was fitting a purpose for you. Coming out of university, there's a lot of people who either don't fit or don't like that typical mold of working for someone else. I gave it a good shot. I didn't mind it. I just liked doing my own stuff a bit more. I was doing my business in my 5 to 9 after work, and it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's why I didn't feel like work, and that's why I could continue to do it for so long without really making much money from it. But then once I got back from Australia a few months ago, I was like, you know what? I don't want to go back to work for someone else to make their dream come true. What about my dream? So I started to do this, and it was like a means to an end. The same with me. Like, I never really consider myself a social media person. I'm a coach. I just need to use social media to get my message to more people. And it sounds like your means into social media was similarly a means to an end. It was just the medium through which you could reach a new clientele and grow your business. And then you've then developed on that through the understanding you've developed through a business sense to then build a personal brand. Because I think I'm not going to comment on your rugby knowledge. I don't know. We haven't gone to the pub to watch a game before. But one thing that is obvious in what you do is this like rugby, not nose, but like rugby lad. Like you clearly have the language, you have the jargon, and you have that northern charm, which I'll never have as well. You may not ever be able to get the naughtiness. I wouldn't curse you with that, but I'll definitely not have that northern charm that you've got because you've got just good chat, mate, and that comes across in the social media. But I want to know what your original start was in the game. What was your first ever experience? Was it down a local club when you were a kid? You say you came from a football household. When did you first get into the game to give you this rugby knowledge? I ever so briefly interrupt this episode of Talking Ruggers, not to remind you of any sponsors, we're still looking for some, but to thank you for your continued support of the podcast week in, week out, whenever we turn up with an episode, typically every Tuesday. So keep your eyes out for those. But thank you for your support. Even just listening does a great wonder. But if you want to go a step further, go down below, drop a like on this episode or rate it 5 stars if that is your choice of podcast provider. If you want to go a step further, hit that subscribe button. Follow along so you're notified exactly when each and every one of these episodes come out. And if you want to go a step even further beyond that, then share it with another rugby loving friend. I hope you've been enjoying this episode. I'm not going to keep you for any longer. We're going to get straight back into it. Thank you so much for your continued support.
Yeah, so I grew up in a football household, like I say. Like, we all love rugby now. My mum liked it when I was younger, but like we're all rugby mad now. I don't know whether that developed as I was younger and that because I was playing it, we all got into watching it a bit more. I'm not sure. But my mum and dad probably like it more than me. But so first, I'll do my first playing memories and then watching. So playing it was, I think my dad took me down to our local rugby league club because obviously from Leeds, it's a rugby league city. Like growing up, Leeds Rhinos were the best team in
Yeah.
England and one of the best teams in the world. That's my local team, like legends like Rob Burrow, Kevin Sinfield, like, so we're a real rugby league city. Like, but I don't think, I can't remember what happened. I must have been about 6, but I didn't like it. And then a couple of years later, under 8s, a lad on my street was playing for York IUFC. So like, I'm from a Leeds postcode, but I'm pretty much bang in the middle of York and Leeds. So, well, I live in Leeds now, but where I am now at my mum's house, bang in the middle of York and Leeds. So I went down to York under 8s, and there was tag rugby then. So I don't know what it's like now, but tag rugby up until under 9s, then under 9s is contact. So I think I got the back end of under 8s, and then under 9s was like unbelievable for me. Like feeling that physical contact confrontation. I was like, oh, I like this. Do you know, like I liked it in tag rugby, but like I fell in love with it, and I think I started to progress quickly in the physical contact because I wasn't scared of it. I enjoyed it. And like, it was a 3-man scrum in under 9s. So I was the prop in the 3-man scrum originally. My thing was like, you just couldn't, like back then I just loved like mauling and like, you couldn't get the ball off me. I just loved that. I developed more as a player later on. I'm sure we'll probably get into it. I wasn't always a prop. I'm not built to be a prop, but well, I've got a bit of a belly on me at the minute, but that'll be gone soon, hopefully. But then, so yeah, we'll talk about what it develops into later. But my first experience of watching rugby couldn't have been better. So I'm born 93, 03 World Cup. I'm 10 years old. Like, it's perfect. So I started loving rugby at under 9. So I'm 9. By the age of 10, I think we won the Grand Slam that year, I'm pretty sure. I vaguely remember watching that at a neighbour's house, but I vividly remember the tournament, like having posters on my wall. I can't really remember the games, but I remember that final, like it was yesterday in the living room downstairs in this house, like Elton Flatley, Johnny Wilkinson exchanging kicks, like towards the end of the game, extra time, and then he sinks that drop goal. Like if you're trying to fall in love with rugby at age of 10, that's probably the best game you could ever watch. As an England fan, it's the best game you could ever watch. So it was like perfect timing for me. So yeah, that was my first memory watching it. But like I said, like even up until now, I've not always been an avid watcher of rugby. I'd watch England. I'd watch every Arsenal game. I'm a football nose, really. Like I'd read all the stats books when I was younger. I'd read books on historic players. And I do that with rugby, watch loads of documentaries, Premier League years, like I'm a bit of a weirdo, really. Like rewatching the 2003 World Cup DVD that showed all the games. I must have watched
Yeah.
that 150 times, mate. I'm not even joking. Stuff like that. Yeah, so they're my first two memories of playing and then watching it, mate.
And what a way to get into it. Like you say, that's just prime time for rugby fans. And it makes you realise how influential World Cups can be. You see the girls going pretty well at the home World Cup recently, and you wonder the good that the England women's winning that World Cup has done for the good of the game over here in the UK, because idols are born. You know, Johnny Wilkinson, you wonder, I'm sure he'd gone on to do even better things, but how good he'd be remembered as being if he didn't hit that drop goal. You know, it's all, you don't want to pin his career on one moment, but it'd be stupid not to mention that as being a pretty big highlight. And that then influenced a lot of people, much like yourself, to continue playing. And it sounds like you have a love for the game that isn't too uncommon. I know a lot of people out there who don't really care for watching it. You know, it's a bit nausea. It can be a bit boring, a bit slow at times. Unless you are a top nose like me who just loves every little nuance of the game, then it can be hard to connect with. Whereas the slightly faster tempo potentially of football, where it can go from end to end, there's always tension, is something that's a bit more appealing. But what's always appealing to some group of people is that physicality around the game and that contact area. Was that something you always relied on in your game? What position did you
Yeah.
ultimately end up finding as home for you if it wasn't in the front row?
It's something I always loved. Like, even now, like, I haven't played rugby for years. Like, I'll explain that in a second. But even now, like, I play five-a-side footy, and I'm just wanting to, like, smash people. Not, like, kick them, but just, like, use your body weight. Like, I'm just,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll never lose that. I just loved that from minute one. So, yeah, like, I was one of those kids that had the growth spurt really young. So I'm only 5'10", but I was this big and stocky at, like, 11 or 12. So I think I knew what it was like for about a year. I knew what it was like to be flipping Billy Vunipola or Jonah Lomu. Like, I would just be able to run over all round because I was fast as well. Everybody, but because I'm small now for a fully grown man, because I'm pretty short, people caught me up quickly. So I ended up at 30. I played all round the backs. Like, at one point I was playing 10 just so they could get me the ball quicker. But I played 13 predominantly, bit of 12 on the wing, 15. But yeah, I was like, what I described myself as was I was just a good amateur try scorer. So like give me I've been chasing, I swear to God, that level of confidence in myself to since then in anything in my life. I was like, on any pitch, I would have an absolute belief in myself that if you give me the ball, I'll score you a try. Like, but the skills, I was okay. I was pretty skillful. I was a good defender, but like, I would always back myself to score tries. Played for York, played for County a couple of years, 14s and 15s, I think. But then fell out of love with rugby. Like, I would have made it to a good level or anything like that. But like, I was a decent player, a decent try scorer. That's how I describe myself. So played, and then I ruptured my ACL when it was like a week before my 16th birthday, and like lost everything. So like I was really quite agile and fast and explosive off the mark. Came back, and like I'd lost that. And if I had my mentality now when I was 16 or 17, I probably could have got back there. But all I was interested in was drinking and partying and just like having a good time. So I didn't, even if I could have got back that explosive pace or whatever it was that I felt like I lost, I didn't have the mentality to do it, and I didn't want to do it. So I kind of came a little bit bitter towards rugby for years, like a good 10 years probably. Because like, you know, when you're a kid, you'll have known it more than me, like playing at a high standard. Like, that is your identity in it. So like, if you're good at rugby, everyone in your school knows, or where your friendship group, whatever it is, there's not, like, you don't have a job, you don't have money, cars, whatever it is that you think is your identity later in life, if you're good at rugby or football or one of the cool sports, like, you've won basically. That's half the battle, isn't it? So I felt like I had that ripped away from me, which I didn't. I just didn't try enough to get it back. So I wouldn't even talk about rugby, watch rugby for a long time. And then I got back into it around the 2019 World Cup and slowly got to a point now where I watch it a lot. But like, for a good 10 years, I didn't play. I haven't played since I was 19, so I'm 32 now. I didn't watch, play, talk about rugby for 10 years, like, because I was just bitter towards like my knee and stuff like that, and it feels like you had your superpower taken away, which it wasn't a superpower, but when you're 15, playing good, like being good at rugby it feels like that, doesn't it?
I had a good chat with Harrison Trains last week about this in the previous episode, and we spoke a lot about that period, particularly a little bit later than you perhaps, but around university, where you typically see a lot of academy prospects being released and essentially losing their identity and losing the love for the game because of it, because you've always been seen as that rugby lad,
Yeah.
part of your identity. And all of a sudden, even if it's not in the minds of other people, because they'll still see you as being a rugby lad compared to anyone else, but in your own mind, you know that you're not at that level that you desired to be at in that professional setup. So you're like, well, if I can't play and get paid at a high level to do it, I'm almost embarrassing myself to even try and play at a lower level. And that's what's sad about it at that level of the game, because that's where you see that the love necessarily isn't there for the game. The love for the game's been taken away. But arguably, at least in my experience, those who love the game the most potentially can go the furthest. Like, I'll always pick a prime example from my playing career up in Dorset, Max Ajomu. And
Yeah, I listened to one of your podcasts. Sorry, I listened to one of your podcasts the other day. Or it might have been this morning. Did you play with him?
I played counties twos under 15s with Max.
No way. How was he at the time?
He was playing at 8. Still
Was
had the
he?
same great footwork, had an absolute rocket off both hands. I don't know how that bloke spins the ball so fast. Like, honestly, he's got so much whip on his passes. But yeah, he was playing 8 in the twos. I was playing fullback back then. And obviously he kicked on. And I pick him as an example because knowing Max, like, he's always such a cheerful bloke, like always got a cheeky grin on his face, always cracking jokes, genuinely looks like he just loves playing rugby. Not in a nausy way, he just loves chucking the ball around with his mates.
Yeah.
And I'm there before a game sweating, stressing, worried to the inch of my life that I'm not going to make it as a professional. I see him over in the other side of the change room just giggling away, like, doesn't even look like he cares, and goes out there and just plays with that same freedom because what he's doing is for the love of the game. And it's similar perhaps then, just reflecting on my own life here, like in my content now, that I genuinely just do this for the love of the game. And perhaps that's why I had some ounce of success in this, is because I just do it because I absolutely love it. And I think that's the
Same.
key thing here, underlying. God, we're getting some philosophical chatting here. Bloody hell. Doing things that you really love, like you mentioned about staying into the space is just a means to an end, because if you can't love what you do, it's hard to stay in it for a long time. And you openly admit that, like, your knowledge may not get to the stage of squidge rugby because you don't have that same love for it in that way. And that can change for many different reasons.
Yeah, but agree. I don't have the sort of like the granular detail, but I absolutely adore. I don't know if I articulated that properly, but I absolutely adore watching rugby and talking about rugby. Like in a way, like what I'm doing now. I've been doing this since I was 5, but whether it's rugby at the club or football with my mates away from rugby, because none of them like rugby, like all I've ever done is talk about sport. So like I bumped into one of my mates over Christmas, and I haven't seen him for years. Went to school with him, and he was like, "Seeing you online, you are like," because he said you're coming across just how you speak to us. He's like, "You're doing exactly what you should be doing," and that's how I feel. Do you know what I mean? When I'm making videos, I knew I shouldn't be working for somebody else, and like I enjoy the entrepreneurial side of things. I've got a couple of other business interests too, but I love talking about sport on camera. Like this now, I could do this all day, and like hopefully one day we will. Do you know what I mean? Like I started a YouTube channel now at P Sports UK. A little shameless plug there. I love the long form nature of it. Again, like I'm not going to do a video that you guys would do, but it doesn't mean that I can't do a video in my own way and appreciate. I love rugby. I love rugby players. I love moments. I love the drama around it. I love the history. I love the rivalries. Rugby is like I literally. There's no feeling prior to kickoff of a big Six Nations game. No feeling you can't beat that, I don't think. So I love waffling about it. So yeah, with the YouTube, like I film them and I'm not monetized on there yet, but like I don't care. Like I'm filming this video and I'm like, this is unbelievable. Hopefully one day I'll get paid to do this. And like I literally am in my element. Do you know what I mean? So I've always had that thing that like I said, I wouldn't be able to work for somebody, but I think I've always known that I don't want to do something that I don't enjoy because I feel like it's a waste of time. It might sound. I understand why people do want to. I do get that, to the security and things like that, and just that suits certain people's personalities. But I've always thought, surely just like, why would we not try and monetize something that we enjoy? Do you know what I mean? And I think you're definitely the same. That comes across like your content is unbelievable because you like, one, your voice is unreal. You've got the best voice for content in the world, and two, I think like your enthusiasm and positivity always comes across. Like you can just tell that you look. Like if you weren't getting paid to be somewhere, or you're just there because you love it. Do you know what I mean? And that comes across, I think.
Too right, mate. I'm with you on that. And much the same, like ditto back to you. Like, I think that passion, that genuine, true love for what you do eventually comes through. It may not be the first video. It may not be the second, it may not be the 10th, but eventually, if you consistently keep showing up, not only is that love for the game what allows you to keep showing up, because much the same as you, I was posting videos for years with zero financial incentive. I just like talking about the game. It was something that
Yeah.
gave me a place to put my energy into rather than playing video games. That wasn't really my thing. I just thought, okay, let me create rather than consume. So not only can it sustain you in that sense, but the passion comes across. It's obvious those who do this for really the love of the game, for just because they want to do what they do, and for those who are doing it as, again, for in their own way, a means to their own ends. But it is that love for the game that carries you through. And that's the best part about our sport, because there's so many different people in it who have such passion to keep it alive. And yes, I go down the nausea route, the analysis route, where I have been doing that much the same as you, chatting about the game from 5 years old. I've always been sat watching, analysing the game. I've, like much the same as you, gone through World Cup highlights, everything. Like whenever I'm having lunch, I'll just stick a highlights of some game on, like 2012
Yeah.
World Cup, like 50 World Cup, anything. I'll just stick some random stuff on just because I love it. Like it doesn't feel like work. And that's what's so
Yeah.
strange about now being in a job where you're doing something you just really enjoy. You forget that, oh my God, like this is actually my job. I'm just doing something I love here. And that's what I want to shed a bit more light into from your situation, mate. Of course, you briefly brushed over like the reselling stuff that you do with the jerseys and stuff. Give us a little more light on how you balance that alongside the more social media personality stuff now you're starting to integrate a bit more. What does your week look like?
Chaos. Chaotic. My like but that's how I like it. Like I function better when I'm spinning loads of plates because I get bored easily. But I need to be careful. Something that I've developed over time is like not dropping one thing completely and going to another thing. So spinning the plates so they're both being successful. So like let's just say a Monday after a Six Nations game. Now I'm a YouTuber with 1,000 subscribers. I'll be doing a YouTube video in the morning. Just like, I don't know, breaking down the games, edit that straight away. But I don't highly edit anything yet because I'm not getting monetized for it. It's not really getting shown to too many people. So I'm just trying to get used to speaking
Yeah.
and just the format of it more so rather than overthinking the editing. Because that's not really me in general. As you know, it's pretty rough and ready what I do anyway. So I'll do that for a couple of hours, for example, or an hour or two, however long it takes. And then I might do, so previous to Six Nations, I was putting out 5 pieces of P Sports content a day. So that'd go on TikTok and Instagram. But now I've reduced that a little bit because there's more talking points. So I've been going for like 1 or 2 videos, probably 2 videos daily. Say this order will change every single day because that's just what I'm like. It gets done. I have the to-do list there. It gets done, but in a different order because I'm just chaotic. But so I'll get the videos done. Then I've got a business that I do content for myself. So I'll get 2 or 3 videos out for the day for that, filmed and edited. But I've already got the bunch of content for that. I just edit it together with different captions or whatever on CapCut, different music. I do the content for Mystery Football Kit Co. So the guy who told me to get on TikTok, the socials, originally like 3 years ago, I ended up taking over his socials because I'd come on that much with what he suggested that I should do. So it's a weird full circle moment. Do their socials, and then I will have sold some rugby shirts over the weekend, whether that's through the website organically or from a TikTok live on the Friday or the Saturday. So I'll package them, take them off to the courier. A lot of my day revolves around content, and my rugby shirts. But yeah, it's just getting that balancing act with me, because like I can become obsessed with things, and then the next shiny new thing comes along. So that's why if I have a certain amount of, say, pieces of content to do in a day, I'll just do it. I think I'm a bit lucky where, one, I don't massively edit things, so it doesn't take that long, and the ideas just come to me. I don't script them. Some of them are going to flop, and that's fine. I don't care. I'm not precious about it, because that's just the game. You just got to get over it. But like, I'll just pump the numbers out, and then a good thing that helps me keep on track as well is like tracking my numbers each week. Like, because I run so many different accounts, and I have done over the years. Like, I'm logged into like 9 TikTok accounts, I think, at the minute. I've run boxing social media accounts. I work for Samurai as well. I do their TikTok, so I'll be doing Samurai videos as well. So like that TikTok account with Samurai, I built that from zero to where it is now. So
Oh
about
wow,
14,000.
that's an
Like
interesting
that.
segue.
Yeah.
That's an interesting sidetrack. Of course, I've got some bits from Samurai in the past. So, talk me through, because they came out with some really cool garms, like maybe like 3-4 years ago now. Then I didn't hear much from
Yeah.
them since then. Like, what's the crack with those guys? They're obviously quite a prolific rugby brand.
Yeah, I don't know what the crack is with those guys, but like, from my point of view, what I've done with them. So, I basically messaged them back end of the year and said, because I was doing good numbers on TikTok. I had less than 20,000 on TikTok. Didn't have an Instagram page. I only started that Instagram last year. I didn't have my second TikTok account, so I had literally less than 20,000 followers. Didn't have much to offer, and I said, let me build your TikTok account up. I know that I can do it. So basically, went with them for 2 months, built it to 10K followers and millions of views in a couple of months. I think that probably gave me a bit of like, that probably got my face out there a little bit more, because I was just a guy who sold rugby shirts before, who made the odd video, but then I was making consistent. I was doing 2 or 3 videos a day for them for a couple of months, and then built that out massively. Had a little bit of a break from them at the start of last year, and then I went back, I think like March last year, maybe May, around that time. And then I do less videos from. I do like 3 videos a week for them at the minute, just on TikTok. But yeah, I think I just approached them like just on a whim. I just said I can do this, because I had a contact there called Jack, a really great guy. He's not there anymore, and he'd sent me like, I think he sent me some free clothes, and it just came from that. So it's like, I kind of just made it happen myself, really. But yeah.
Loads of like nuggets of wisdom in there, mate, in the social media sense. Like, for one, you talk about your approach to social media is something that I should be doing more of, in my personal opinion. Like this unedited, like unover managed, over thought through like content where you're just being yourself, talking to the camera. And it reminds me of like a mentality shift I saw recently. Like, I heard someone talking about Steph Curry, the basketball player, and how obviously he's a 3-point specialist when it comes to shooting from long range. And you'd hear him in interviews talk about, if he'd missed a shot, he wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, I missed." He'd say, "Yeah, that shot didn't go in." Or the same for the positive. Like, he wouldn't say, "Oh, I landed that shot," or he'd just go say, "That shot went in." It's more about that external appreciation for that mentality of what's going on outside of what I can control isn't really my concern. Like, I'm just going to keep on shooting. If those shots go in, that's great. If not, I'm going to keep on shooting regardless. And that's the mentality for social media, I think, is just repetition, repetition, repetition. What would be your advice for someone trying to get into the space around how you can actually begin to execute a bit better? Because you're, mate, great on camera. Like, you got some funny takes. Is this just you being wholeheartedly yourself, or how much of this comes down to a bit of strategy around talking points? How much do you plan? What advice might you have for someone?
So the biggest advice I would give to someone, the most important thing, bar none, by a mile, for a new content creator, is just post. There's so many like people who I know who might have tried it, people who haven't, people who've DM'd me. What can I do? And all I hear is, I'll wait until I've got the best equipment. Look, this is the only mic I've ever had, and it's not great. I'll wait until I've got the best equipment. I've downloaded this editing software. I'm going to wait for the big talking points. And all it is just procrastination and putting it off because you're nervous about starting, and that's okay. So like, I totally understand the mindset of people not wanting to post. Like, when I first started my vintage page, we had an Instagram, obviously, to promote it, to try and sell the products. And I wouldn't even want to take a photo of myself in the hoodie. That's how much I didn't want to be on camera. So if you see where I've evolved to now,
Yeah, right.
like it shows it can be done. Like I'd be paying models to do it. I'd getting my mates to do it. Don't get me wrong, being a 5'10" stubby model doesn't look great with clothes. Doesn't look great to try and sell the hoodies anyway. But like, do you know? I'll just say that to illustrate the point that like I was against being on camera just for a still image photo in a hoodie. Never mind going on and speaking on live streams, going on podcasts. So the only thing that got me here was action, was posting, and I just built up to it. So yeah, I understand the mindset, but the most important thing in content creation, particularly when you're starting out, just post and post as much as you can, because a lot of it's going to be crap, and that's how you learn, in my opinion.
Too right, mate. And yeah, you might get a bit of stick of it to start, but you know what? It's all part of the journey. But not everyone has to be a content creator. You know, there's loads of other ways that our game can be moved forwards alongside the social media space. So what do you think, as we progress into this final section of the podcast, that rugby needs to be doing better? Whether that's on field, off field, what ideas do you have to fix our game and take it forward into the 21st century?
One thing always sticks in my mind that I heard James Haskell say, and I think it was true, he's spoken about it a couple of times, it's rugby needs to be better at building its superstars. So you look at the way the football, NBA, NFL, they build these superstars, because I think they're so important for people, for kids to look up to. So when I look back at the glory days of Arsenal, I think Thierry Henry, 2002 World Cup when I was getting into England, Beckham, '04, Rooney. Like, as a kid, that's immediately what I go back to. It's not really what happened, it's the stars. So even for me now, like, I think Ellie Kildunn, like, I hadn't watched any women's rugby until this World Cup just gone. And Ellie Kildunn is a superstar in everything, isn't she? On pitch, highlight reel moments. Off pitch, great talker. Helps that she's from up north as well. She's from near me. And also, like, she just looks like a star, got the great hair, everything. I think these things, like, and they've built her up to be this star. You see her on the Sports Personality of the Year award.
Maybe.
And she was speaking, yeah, maybe one day. She's probably pretty good at it. But do you know what I mean? Even me as a 32-year-old man, I was watching that final and I just couldn't wait to watch her play. This superstar that I've built into, I've seen her on socials. Like, I've bought into that. And then, so it's just like someone like Henry Pollock, obviously, like, let him go, let him do his thing to promote this game because he's so important. Someone like him, he's a superstar. Let him cross over, because you look at like a recent rugby player that's crossed over to the mainstream, Joe Marler in the Traitors. Yeah. He didn't win, but he was the star of the show. And rugby players, we're not littered with Joe Marlers, don't get me wrong. He's a one-off, but we're littered with characters like that given the opportunity to be put in these places and built as superstars can really carry the game on their back in a way. Because like Marler after that, like not only was like he was the first one to figure out who were the traitors, but he was also like, he's just put on a real good performance. He looked great. He's got the hair, everything. And like ITV or whoever the platform were wanted to do more with him after that. And I think, I don't know, I just feel like, I'm sure there's 100 other things, but that thing that Haskell said to me always sticks in my mind. Because even him, Haskell, like, he's a star, isn't he? But that's all self-driven. Like, rugby probably wanted to stifle him when he was younger, right? And then he's built this huge platform. He's on podcasts, books. He's got a huge following, and that's all off his own back. But imagine rugby was doing that, was helping other stars. I don't know. I think that's a good place to start.
You fired me up, mate. 100%. The answer's twofold to sort of bring some more detail to what you're saying. Because for one thing that the women's game does really well compared to the men's game is give reasons to watch beyond the game itself. The men's game is so focused on changing some laws here and there and making the product the best. Everyone's moaning about box kicking too much, blah, 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 all this stuff. And the women's game almost doesn't even care about that, because I think they're humble enough to admit that the product on the pitch itself isn't necessarily the most competitive thing in the world yet. And it's as the professional era is only getting further down the line for them, it's only improving. But what they are doing better than anyone else is everything around the game. In one way, on match days, giving so much for people to come and do, make a proper day out of it. Even if you don't understand the rugby because you're a new fan, you just want to support women's sport, come along because you're going to have so much to do. Then second to that is the personalities on the field. It's the same in the men's game. Whenever someone was an idol who was playing, for me, I don't know, like Sergio Parise. Like, I didn't really know who any of the other Italian players were when I grew up. When I was like 12 years, I don't know the names of these Italians, but I knew who he was with his bold head. And I always used to look out for him because I was like, oh my God, I love seeing what this guy does. And all of a sudden your eyes are more focused on the game because you can see what's going on in that sense. And that's one half of the benefit for rugby. But as you mentioned with Joe Marler being the very, very best example of this, is taking such a unique personality, which is a rugby lad personality, which is very well known across mainstream media as being boisterous, camaraderie, but doing it in a proper good way in terms of the mainstream is hitting a certain demographic that the mainstream needs. And Joe Marler's leading the charge in that sense because he is the most stereotypical looking and acting and behaving rugby player that there is. And as we integrate more of these players out of the niche of rugby into the mainstream, it brings more eyes back round to rugby and they realize, oh my God, there are actually loads of personalities like this and they're not all knobheads. You know, they can have their times. Everyone does, Haskell being top of that list, but it's part of it. And it gives a new angle to everyone else in society beyond our game. What an answer, mate. You fired me up there. It's bang on.
Yeah. Because it's mad, mate, because like none of my mates would be able to name you a single England rugby player. Genuinely, I know it's a cliche, but I've had this conversation with my mates. Like, can you name me a player? And they'll genuinely say, does Johnny Wilkinson still play? But these lads love sport. Do you know what I mean? They might be into golf, cricket, footy, boxing, MMA. And even if they're not into all them, I bet they could name the stars in the other sports. But they couldn't tell me who Owen Farrell is. Or they might say, oh, that one who does the weird thing with his head when he kicks. But like, that's the only thing. Like, it's mad because they don't know that. And one, how can all... I'm getting fired up now as well. Because all these lads, they love sport. They love all these other sports. Rugby is so exciting to watch. Even better to play, in my opinion. But it's so exciting to watch. They would love it. I know that they would if it was marketed to them in the right way. But it hasn't been. Especially, you know, up here, like, they would be able to name a few rugby league players probably. But even that, but that's a different conversation. But rugby union, especially up here, like I say, the only lad who I can talk to my mates about rugby is one who I played with, and I'm his mate from then. So yeah, it's a weird one, mate. It's a weird one.
Yeah, and the biggest difficulty that rugby faces is its attachment to being a team sport, which is what makes rugby rugby. It's our point of difference. No I is bigger than the team, but that is also the entire sport's downfall. Because when there is no I in team, there's no individuals to buy the shirt of, or there's no personalities to stand out to talk about in the pub. Pollock's being the most spoken about player I've ever experienced in my career in rugby. I was at Twickenham the other week for the captain's run ahead of the Ireland match, which we don't have to talk about, obviously, because that was a tough day at the office. But every interview, there was a question for Pollock. He wasn't even there. It was Dingwall and Blackett in the presser, but everyone was so fascinated about Pollock because he brings so much conversation to the game. So I'm here for those personalities. A balance. We still want to stay true to rugby values and still be true to no I in team because, I mean, you have to, because it's not like football where in football Messi can run from his own goal to the other goal and score a goal. You know what I mean? That's very rare that happens in rugby. No individual can ever be greater than the team, but they don't have to be greater in every element. You know, you can just show a bit of personality, but that's also rugby because you'll get some stick for it as well. Like, you'll get stick for putting yourself out there. It's such a multifaceted answer to that question of how we can actually integrate these things.
Yeah, I agree. But that's why someone like Henry Pollock is probably perfect, because he doesn't care what anyone thinks. I genuinely don't think he does. Like, from what you hear about players saying about him in interviews, like, I think he half thrives off that, and that's a rare person, really. I don't think trolls or fans will bother him. So that's one reason why he's great. And for some reason, and the other reason is there's something about him that everybody wants to know about, isn't there? Like, you know as well as me, any video in the first 3 seconds, if it's got Henry Pollock in, is going to do better than if it had another player in. And he is going to be one of the best in the world. I genuinely believe that, if you consider where he's at this soon into his journey as a rugby player. But he's not one of England's best players yet, but by a mile, he is the best performing in terms of eyeballs, and you know that as well as I do. And all the big social media accounts all know that as well, because they all use his face. So I think he's the perfect man, one, to let him free and let him be the star and put him on these chat shows or wherever he needs to be, because he's going to give you viral moments. But two, he's a great example to follow for someone else coming through that. Look what can be done, because he's going to make I imagine, a hell of a lot more money because of how he is and who he is, because he looks good, he speaks well, he's entertaining, he creates moments, he's got the celebrations, he's like the whole package as a superstar, really, isn't he?
He is the player on the pitch and off the pitch who's bringing it into the 21st century. There's only a few of them out there. You mentioned Haskell, Marler, and Pollock being like prime examples of people who are taking our game into the mainstream. And that's what we need. We need people to bring more eyes to it, as long as they keep performing on the pitch. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd get a tough time off it if he keeps on doing these things. But that's the game we live. That's the game we love. It's all part of it. But talk to the people now, mate. If they're still listening this far into the episode, they are a top Norse. So how can they help you out, mate? Plug your socials. What can they do to help support you?
So really trying to build the YouTube at the minute. P Sports UK on YouTube, at P Sports UK on Instagram. And I've got 2 TikTok accounts, at P Sports and at psports.2.
Simple as that. I'll leave them linked below, so I'll give you people easy access. But this has been great, mate. I've loved having another Northerner on the channel. We had Matt Dirty from Old Novo on. That was a good Northern chat. I didn't have to do too much translation there. I could actually understand what he was saying. He's a very, very southerner. But, mate, it's been great. And you've got some great ideas and you're doing some great things for the sport, mate. So thank you so much for, first of all, coming on, but secondly, for helping out our game, mate, bringing some comedy, bringing some light, bringing some laughter to the sport that we love.
No, all good. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to do a bit of content with you, because you inspire me. Like, I'm not just saying it because I'm on here. You really are one of the best about. So pleasure, and I'm honoured that you actually invited me on, mate. Top man.
Well, mate, the pleasure and privilege is all mine. Thank you so much for your kind words. And thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far into the episode, you are clearly a top Norse. So thank you for joining us. If you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Go down there, leave a like on the episode. If you loved it, then why not share it with a friend? Send it to your biggest rugby lover. But otherwise, I hope you have a lovely training week. Go well on the weekend, and we'll hear from you in the next one.